The headlines: a federal court in Canada rules that widespread vote fraud took place during the 2011 federal elections. The chief of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies warns about the spread of civil unrest in Europe. In Sweden, unrest spreads to at least 2 other towns as cars and buildings are torched in the capital for a 6th night. And more than 100,000 US federal workers are forced to take unpaid leave as spending cuts take effect. Live from Tehran, you're watching Press TV's World News. Hello and welcome. Our top story this hour: a top court in Canada has confirmed that the election in 2011, which led to the victory of Stephen Harper's government, was fraudulent. The federal court has emphasised in a ruling that it has found, quote, in no uncertain terms that widespread election fraud took place during the vote. The ruling also states that there was an orchestrated effort to suppress votes during the election campaign by a person with access to the Conservative Party's database. Accordingly, the Council of Canadians has called on the Conservative Party to investigate the issue. It says anything less at this point would be a cover-up on behalf of the Conservatives. Joshua Blakeney is our correspondent with me now live from Calgary. Let's get the updates from him. So, Joshua, this ruling coming at this certain point in time, do you think that it's going to lead to a probe? And if that probe or investigation that we're hearing also confirms the finding, then is it going to lead to an annulment of the vote?
Hi, Homer. Well, yes, this is timely for many reasons. One, of course, being the fact you have the Iranian elections coming up, and you can bet that the Harper regime will be meddling and making spurious allegations about the outcome of that election. Here we have an independent judge in Canada finding that in the Canadian elections in 2012, there was indeed widespread election fraud. Now, the hope of the plaintiffs in this case, the Council of Canadians, was that the judge would overturn the 6 members of Parliament which were being disputed in this. And the judge said, unfortunately, that insufficient evidence had been marshaled for him to feel comfortable to overturn those results, although there may be appeals and further actions being taking place. But the context is very important. Basically, the Conservatives were fettered until the 2011 election, and that was because that previously they'd only been able to form minority governments. Minority governments meaning that all the opposition parties, the NDP, the party from Quebec, the French-Canadian Party, the Liberal Party of Canada, that they, in their totality, outnumbered the Conservative Party even when they formed the government. So the Conservative Party until 2011 used to have to compromise and turn to the more left-wing parties in order to pass legislation. In 2011, of course, they attained a majority of seats, and it now turns out that there has been election fraud, and the judge confirmed that that election fraud took place with people who had access to Conservative Party databases. And so this is a withering indictment of the Harper regime, and I think many Canadians would like to see free and fair elections in this country, and to see a government that's, and a media establishment in this country that's more concerned with the electoral process, for example, in Canada, than the electoral process in Iran. It seems that in this country, the media is more concerned with the election system in Iran than they are with the election system in Canada. I think many Canadians now are having enough of this, especially with the rise of this authoritarian government, because not only did they engage in election fraud, since they came to power with this majority government, the Conservative Party have been ramming through omnibus bills which have been changing almost every aspect of Canadian society to conform with the ideological whims of this reactionary and extremely right-wing and Zionist-influenced government of Canada.
And Joshua, very quickly, why are we seeing this ruling coming now? The vote was held in 2011. Were the accusations of fraud prevalent at the time of the vote?
Well, what happened was the fraud allegations were basically people saying that people who were likely to vote for parties other than the Conservative Party came out and sort of whistle blew slowly but surely after the election result came out, saying that they had received phone calls, they've been called robocalls, basically saying your polling station has moved and this is the new address of your polling station. And when they went to go to that polling station, to a school or some municipal building, that wasn't actually the case. And so it became difficult because obviously political parties don't specialize in electronic messages. That private companies do that. So there had to be a causal link established between these robocall companies that fraudulently misled voters who weren't going to vote for the Conservative Party, and linking that to the Conservative Party of Canada. And that has, in a sense, been done insofar as the judge has found that the people who did these robocalls had access to Conservative Party data, which means that either someone higher up in the Conservative Party gave them that data, which many would infer, or there was extreme negligence in the Conservative Party. Either way, yes, the Conservative Party and this election fraud, you could say, are two sides of the same coin. And that's made many Canadians upset, especially because it's such a radical government that's radically altering this country, both on the international stage and domestically.
Joshua Blakeney, a correspondent with us there from Calgary. Joshua, thank you very much. Now, the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, the IFRC, is warning that rising unemployment